address.
Thank you, Christina. Past President Doug. Now, let's welcome to the stage to introduce our visitors. We're a little rowdy, folks. Let's keep on task here. We're going to welcome to the stage Ed McLinn, insurance consultant, Champion Commercial Insurance. Ed.
Thank you, Vice President Robert, and welcome everyone to the Rotary Club's meeting today, those in person and online. And as I announce your name, please stand up so everybody will know who you are and can say howdy. First, we have Ade Awasani, guest of past President Kurt Driver, over here. Carol Kibbers, a guest of past President Courtney Lewis. And one more guest of immediate past President Rebecca Montgomery is Rebecca Schrank. We have Ryan Perucci, who's a guest of me. Mary Grace Tennis is a guest of Mark Kelly. Back here. Mitch Bettis is a guest of visiting Rotarian from, is a guest visiting Rotarian from Little Rock, Arkansas. And Mike Brown has brought Grace Lewis as his guest. Back there. And Rosa Maria Verdeja has brought Dr. Melandi Dadi Munoz. Did I get that right? Somewhere. And Cal Pinnell is a guest of John Kirk over here. And last, Evan Eastman has brought Alice Eastman as his guest. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for all the guests for joining us this afternoon. Here at our Fort Worth Rotary, we'd like to express ourselves by doing the four-way test. This really defines the core values that Rotary espouses, so let us do the four-way test together, shall we? First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? 4th, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. All right, so now we come to the time of the program that you either love or hate. I will encourage you all, you'll see that there are small, tiny bricks at your tables. Please do not throw them at our newscaster today. So today's newscast is going to be done by Mitch Rittman, Principal, Reitman Consulting Group. Mitch.
I meant to put Velcro underneath the bricks. I didn't get to it. Thank you so much. I feel about as welcome as Donald Trump at a Harvard trustee meeting. But first for the weather. It's hot out there. It's so hot, I'm sweating like a congressman whose wife just got a copy of the Jeffrey Epstein client list. It's so hot in Illinois that Governor Pritzker went to see Greg Abbott just to get a cold shoulder. It's so hot that Tarrant Regional Water District is selling bottled water from the Trinity River. President Trump fired the labor statistics chief after a report showed increased unemployment. Meanwhile, a heat wave gripped the Midwest and California, pushing temperatures above 100 degrees. President Trump said that if it doesn't cool off by next week, he'll fire the head of the National Weather Service. Smoke from forest fires has drifted into upstate New York, Wisconsin, and Illinois. President Trump stated if this continues, he'll impose a 100% tariff on Canadian smoke. Several Texas Democrats fled to Chicago to avoid a House vote on redistricting. They said that Chicago is an example of a city with a solid socialist agenda. Well, they didn't exactly go to Chicago. They went to St. Charles because it's safer. The governors of California and New York called Texas Republicans cheaters and vowed to join Illinois to gerrymander their congressional districts in favor of Democrats. Apparently, 2 wrongs don't make a right, but 4 do. The Texas House is considering a new bill allowing the sale of marijuana for treatment of arthritis. The bill has joint support. Bill Clinton's association with Jeffrey Epstein is in the news again. This week he filed his tax return. Under filing status, he crossed out married and put, "It's complicated." In business news, Bed Bath & Beyond announced this morning that it's back from bankruptcy, and they're going to have smaller stores with a limited amount of products. The company said the new concept will be called offline shopping. It's just like online shopping, but you don't need a computer. And finally, in sports news, there's been daily drama at the Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California. When asked if Micah Parsons being a baby, Jerry Jones said, "No, a baby stops crying after a while." Mr. Jones announced he was looking forward to watching some of the best games the Cowboys ever have this fall, of course, on the History Channel. And the weather this weekend will be hot and sunny with no rain, but don't worry, if it wasn't for the weather, we could never end the newscast.
Thank you, Mitch, for another enlightening newscast for us today. All right, next up, we have a few announcements. Up first is Rosa Maria Verdeja, Principal Attorney, Law Office of Rosa Maria Verdeja, followed by Past President Courtney Lewis, Fort Worth Area President, First Texas Bank.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I have the honor of serving as this year's committee chair for the Richard L. Knight Rotary Minority Business Awards. And we are going to kick off the year with a sponsor reception. And everyone's invited, not just the sponsors, just to launch the year. It will be held on Tuesday, the 19th at 5:30 p.m. at the WRG offices on Vickery. So thank you, Greg Carter, for always being so generous with your space. And then we will have, yes, let's give him a hand for that. And if that doesn't bring you out, we will have bites provided by Katrina Carpenter. So come by, have a drink, enjoy some food, and yeah, let's kick off the awards year. Thank you.
Hi, okay, so 3 things about the Rotary Golf Tournament. So when? October 20th, so mark your calendar. Where? Ridgely North this year. The South Course is redoing their greens, so we will be at the North Course this year. Who? This year we're benefiting the veterans at the James L. West Center, so they will be the beneficiaries of all funds raised. Not a golfer, not a problem. We will have a mix and mingle ticket, so you can come and hang out with those who golf. And then just see me, James, or Aurora if you want to sign up, and we'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Past President Courtney, 2 great events. Hope to see everyone there. Now we have a special presentation. Let's welcome to the stage Ukuya Anyanfo, CEO, founder of EA Wealth Management, LLC. Ukuya.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm here to say thank you. Thank you for actually sponsoring our RALA students for the 2025 program. So RALA is an intensive leadership development program started in 1971 by Rotary International for Young Leaders. This year, we're fortunate enough to sponsor 5 students, all from 3 different schools. So we have Young Women's Leadership Academy, we have International Newcomer Academy, and then we have I Am Terrell. I would like to say thank you to the club, but a special thank you to Rebecca Montgomery because this happened during her Rotary term. I also wanted to say a special thank you to Rundle. Rundle was fortunate enough, and actually Rundle has always been great because he covered transportation. He was also a driver. And then also a special thank you to Tammy Terra, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. But today, we actually have 2 of the 2025 students that actually attended RALA, had a great time, and they're here to share their experience so the club can cover some more money for next year. So on that note, I'm actually going to, also with us actually are some of the students' parents. So I would say Jill Darden is one of the parents, so thank you for coming. Our own John Wright is here, and John Wright actually we have John Wright's granddaughter here as well. So on that note, Justice Smith, From Young Women Leadership Academy, please come up. Giles Clark. From I Am Terrell. And Madeleine De La Cruz. So Madeleine is a past RALA student. She's here to share her experience, and then she went back as a counselor because that was how great it was. So on that note, I'm going to turn this over to these students. We're going to have our 2025 students do their presentation, and then Madeleine is going to come in and wrap it up and let you know how great it's been for her. Thank you.
So, hi, my name is Jessica Smith. Thank you guys for paying for me to go. It was a really great experience. And
how y'all doing? Real quick, go. I don't know. Did it? Go Ryla. Yeah, that's what they do. I'm Giles Clark. I'm go to I Am Terrell Academy for STEM and VPA right up the street.
Hi, my name is Madeleine De La Cruz. I am currently in college. I'm a member of the Decatur Satellite Club. We are supported by the Decatur Rotary Club, and I've had the opportunity to come back not once, not twice, but 3 times as a counselor at RILA, and I've just loved being able to share my experience and be able to pass that on to other students.
so me and Giles decided to talk about our thoughts before we went to RILA, and I would say before I had went or ever really heard of RILA, I thought it would be more of like classes about leadership, and I would be sitting in class all day and I'd be like, I'm learning, which is really great, but I didn't think it would be as fun as it was or as educational and really just a really exciting moment.
And yes, for me too, I really thought, my first thoughts about RILA, I didn't know too much about it, and I thought it would be like, less hands-on activities. I thought we wouldn't be as connected. Sometimes when you go to camps and when you go to different things outside of your hometown, people, it could be kind of awkward at first, and you think everybody's gonna split up and do their own thing, but no, like, it was really an amazing experience where people were connected and we got to know each other and build relationships. So those are kind of my first initial thoughts about RILA I didn't know about. Oh, next slide, yeah.
So one thing we did do was have an etiquette dinner, which was really fun. We got to eat a lot of really good foods, but we also learned how to properly dine when you're whether you're going for a job interview or whether it's for an event. It's just a proper way to dine and present yourself to those around you in a respectable and very presentable manner.
Yes, she pretty much said it, and it was an awesome experience getting to, dress up. Everybody dressed up. We got like suits, and the ladies wore dresses, and it was just an awesome experience getting to know, like, we're eating now. Things that I didn't know beforehand, I know now because of this experience. So, yes, I'm grateful for that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so the city council, I'm gonna let you speak on this too, because you were up there. Yeah, so city council, we had a whole scenario. It was so awesome. So they gave us a scenario of like a community, and people wanted to buy land and develop it. And they had a whole board, a city council, and then they had people. I remember I was the program director, and they gave us things to say, like, this costs this much money. This is what happens when, you buy this land and you have to develop it, and there's people living around here. So I know more about the real world now because of this experience, and Justice was actually on the council, so I'm gonna let her talk about that.
Yes, so I was selected by my fellow peers in my family, which I'm really grateful for, and they selected me to be on the council. And so I was able to hear everybody's opinions and voice their concerns on how they felt about this motion about expanding land and building construction. And I would say it's definitely an interesting experience. You tend to learn a lot on how to present yourself and contain your emotions, because a lot of people will come up to you with very sad stories, very argumentative stories, and really you have to look at it as the perspective of which will be beneficial for all concerned in the city. And so it was honestly really fun. I got to learn a lot. Hey, future city council member, who knows? But And so the next thing we did was some indoor activities, and it was really great because we got to bond with our families, which was really nice because I didn't really know anybody on my family or really much anybody there. And so being able to have this chance to really connect with them was really nice. It's kind of one of those things where you learn to trust those people around you, but it also teaches you how to not only to not only guide others, but guide yourself. And also, as a leader, there's multiple aspects to it, and one aspect is definitely to contain yourself, for sure.
Yes, so this next one is a service project. I really enjoyed this activity where we got to go outside and we got to, we took out weeds. We took out weeds and we planted.
I'm waiting on my gluten free
But it
dessert.
was like
It's right.
it smelled bad, but you know, we got it done. Just building that connection, enjoying each other's company, and knowing that you're doing something good for the community. Okay, I said that the other one was my favorite, but this is probably my favorite one, the 4-way test skit. This is where with our families, we created a whole skit based off of the 4-way test. And it was so awesome because each people in our family, we all had different ideas, but we didn't just disregard each other's ideas, but we took it into account, and we build off of that. And I sing. I go to I Am Terrell. I'm a choir major, and I sing, and so I got to sing. I made up a song based off of the 4-way test, so that was awesome. And yeah. You don't want to sing it? So I based it off of Michael Jackson's "I'll Be There," right? So I said, you and I must make a pact. We must bring truth back. Where there is love, I'll be there. And then it went on to say, I forgot it, but yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, based off of the 4-way test.
Oh, so this was our last day there. It was really sad because it's like you get to see everybody you just met over 4 days get to go, but it was also a really happy moment because I got to see my friends. Technically, I'm not a senior yet, but I got to see them graduate early, so it was nice to see them walk across the stage and like be fully fledged as leaders I saw them evolve and really better themselves under the 4-way Rotary and 4-way Rotary test, and so it really paid off to really see them walk across and be not only accomplished of their accomplishments, but our accomplishments as a group. And we did a lot of bonding activities where we wrote on each other's shirts with messages and everything. You want to talk about the graduation?
You want to say your thank yous? All right, go ahead.
I think one word that Justice just said that really sums up what Ryla is about is she said, it was great to see her fellow students evolve. And that's really what this camp does for students. It fosters their leadership skills by really relying on building teamwork. We have these groups, we call them families. That way, we're really fostering relationships among each other. And that means that they are getting to learn, they're getting to grow together in this family. And in this scenario where they're all together, they're also evolving. They're learning their different styles of leadership. So through this, they are able to evolve, and by this graduation, by the end of Ryla, it's only 4 short days, but they're actually really long days. We go from very early in the morning to very late at night. And this is something that allows for them to have the maximum kind of reward from the camp. Even though it is so short, we're really pouring in as much as we can in that time. So I've been a counselor. My first year, I would have said much of the same. Something that I've learned also in my years coming back as a counselor, where my experience has differed, is when you're in your first year as a student, as a camper, you're really getting to know your peers and you're learning leadership among them. But as a counselor, once you come back, you learn leadership among a smaller group of people, and you're also getting to know other people who are older, who are more mature, who are further along in Rotary. My first year, my Rotarian counselor was someone named Raju Samuels. He's someone who really poured into me, helped me grow in my mentorship and leadership skills. And I've got to talk to him, to people like David Dominguez, Lanny Noble, other people who are in charge of RILA, and those older people are people who I look up to, who have shaped my journey. So not only does RILA help with your relationships with your peers, not only does it help with your leadership among them, but it also gives examples of people that you can look up to. It gives examples of people of great leadership that you can just follow what they have modeled for you. So I would really ask all of you guys who are members of Rotary, that you would really pour into RILA, that this is something that you would give into. Thank you for sponsoring these students. I know they had a great time. If you could sponsor even more, that would be wonderful. But not only does RILA run off of funds, it also runs off of people. So I've been invited back as a counselor. RILA depends on its counselors, not only on its junior counselors, but there are also senior counselors. Those are our Rotarian counselors who are part of Rotary. And the families, they have one junior counselor and one senior counselor. So if you have the opportunity to give 4 days of your time, I would really encourage it, because you get to see these students evolve. You get to see the next generation of leaders. You get to see them grow and learn, and you get to be a part of that. So thank you guys so much for putting on RILA, for supporting that and contributing to such a wonderful camp.
So you heard it from the students, so now you know why we sponsor them, and next year, let's double the numbers. Thank you.
Ikua, Madeline, thank you for bringing the students here to share their experience with us. And Justice and Giles, thank you all for your talent and sharing everything that you experienced at RILA. I will be looking for Justice's campaign slogans here fairly soon as she runs for City Council. All right, and now for a second reading and vote, please welcome immediate past President Rebecca Montgomery, CEO and founder, Montgomery Strategies.
Thank you, Robert. And Akua, I agree. When are we going to start these campaigns for Justice and Giles? Let's get on that. This is the place to start. We have one second reading today. The proposed member is Scott Ryder, President and CEO of the Ryder Group, Real-Time Feedback. Classification, Automotive Industry Technology Consulting. Proposer, Mr. Ed McLinn. I move his election subject to attending a new member Rotary session meeting. Rotary session.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, and he is hereby elected. Welcome. All right, and now we get to introduce a new member today, and with that introduction is Adrian Galvan, CEO and Managing Partner of Galvan Strategy Group. Adrian.
Hello, good afternoon. I get the honor of introducing my good friend Chavoyd Hamilton as a new member of Fort Worth Rotary. And here's a little background on Chavoyd. Well, first I want to mention, the first time I met Chavoyd, we went on a business lunch, and I thought we were going to talk business the whole time, and all we talked about was family and kids and just the real stuff. And that's when I knew Chavoyd's the real deal. He's a genuine person. Chavoyd is Fort Worth born and raised. After early days of working in retail and for the IRS, he somehow found his way into print media business. Chavoyd has worked in the local print media business for 30 years, and currently he and his wife are owners, CEO, president of the Metro Report. And they're also celebrating 1-year ownership of CEO, president of the Business Press magazine. Through the years, he has served as an event volunteer with several local organizations. Chavoyd has previously sat on the advisory council for Casada Catholic High School and currently serves on the executive board for the Hispanic Wellness Coalition. Chavoyd can usually be found working with, serving, and supporting members of his church. Please help me in welcoming Chavoyd Hamilton to Fort Worth Rotary.
First, I'd like to say thank you, Adrian. I greatly appreciate you sponsoring and taking time to share with me and answering questions for me regarding Rotary. For a lot of you who are here today, I think you are somewhat familiar with me or may know me, and thank you for your support and your encouragement probably over the last several years to not only what I do, but to become a part of Rotary. So I want to thank you, and it's a really good feeling to be a part of Rotary and to be called a Rotarian. I do want to say that before I say anything further, is that the young man who came up here and stood and sang the song, Giles Clark, is an awesome young man, and he has an amazing future ahead of him. Let's not lose track of him, Fort Worth, because he's going to be a powerhouse in this city. Amen. He has already written 4 books. He's already written 4 books, an awesome. So it was mentioned, and it was mentioned that in the bio that he read that I worked for the Internal Revenue Service for a while. Now, I didn't work in that department, the one that, however, I worked in a branch that serviced the internal workings of the Internal Revenue Service, facilities management. And occasionally, there would be other departments of the government who would request assistance. Not that I'm that special. I was driving a big 1.5-ton truck. And I was invited, persuaded, encouraged to go on a raid with the DEA. And when I got there, they told me, stay in the truck. And I noticed that everyone had these blue jackets on with these big yellow letters across them. They said, stay in the truck. This could be kind of dangerous. And I looked across and I saw a guy who was taking photos of me. And I still didn't know who he was, and I thought maybe he was coming to get raided. And so I turned to the left. I wanted him to get a good shot. I turned back to the right, and I turned forward again. And eventually they had trouble with the truck. And when I got out of the truck, the head guy in charge says, hey, I know you. I've seen you around. Come on inside with us. And when I went inside, I mentioned that they all had on the blue jackets with those yellow letters across it. But I also noticed something else that they had. He told me to come and you sit here just around the corner so that you can't be seen through the front door. And it was at that time when I stood around the corner, I noticed everybody in the place not only had on that blue jacket with the yellow letters, they all had guns. I'm the only one in the place without a gun. And I'm thinking, brother, you don't have to worry about me peeping my head out the window. That's the fun fact and thing that you don't know about me, so now you know it. Once again, thank you, Rotarians. Thank you for the support you've given over the years, and I look forward to coming and being a part of Rotary and serving Fort Worth. Thank you.
There we go. I put this down. All right, and now we are going to welcome back to the stage our chairperson of the day, past president, Courtney Lewis, Fort Worth area president, First Texas Bank.
Okay, so I'm going to correct you real quick. It's First Bank Texas. I know it's quite generic, and there are lots of banks with those words in some format, but it's FBT. Remember, FBT. So I'm here today to introduce our speaker. Ed Watson has been president and CEO of Acme Brick Company since April 2023, but he's actually been with Acme for over 42 years as an associate for a variety of departments. In 1983, Ed began his career with Acme as a plant engineer at the company's Ranger aggregate plant. At 29, he became general manager of Acme's Texas Quarries Division, then general manager of the company's concrete block operations. In 2004, he was named Acme's vice president of production and served as executive vice president of operations 2 years before becoming Acme's 12th CEO. Ed is currently the chairman of the Brick Industry Association, a national association that promotes and safeguards the clay brick industry. A native of Muleshoe, Texas, Ed holds a degree in engineering technology from Texas Tech University. So guns up, help me welcome Ed Watson to the stage. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I tell you what, there's some hard acts to follow here. These RILA students are pretty impressive. Speaking ability, and I'm not going to try to match any of your jokes. So I'm going to try to cram about 134 years of history into about 27 minutes. So I'm going to have to kind of fly through some of this, but I'm excited to share with you a little bit about our history. As you mentioned, I'm the 12th president of the company. There's actually an interesting connection here that I'll share with you in a moment of somebody else who's in attendance with us today. So let's go back. Brick making has been a part of history for a very, very long time. It goes back to actually into biblical times. And in the book of Genesis, actually, they talk about let's make some brick and burn them thoroughly. So, you can't get any more, long lasting as having a brick that's been around for that much time. A little bit about brick making itself. The process begins with having a good source of clay or shell. That shell is mined, the clay is mined, we bring it into our plant, we'll have to grind it down, we screen it, we get it to the right size, and from there it goes through different processes where we extrude it, actually form the brick, has to be dried then, sometimes moisture is put in, you got to take the moisture out from the drying process, and from there it goes through the kiln where it's heated up to roughly 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and then once it's brought out, it's cooled, and we run it through the packaging operation, and ultimately it's going to be shipped to some happy homeowner's home or some fantastic business within whatever distance it may be from the plants. Typically, brick residentially is consumed within about a 200-mile radius of a plant. Commercially, we'll ship brick up into the Northeast and into California, different markets. So it just depends on the demand you may have for it. Back in colonial times, there was actually brick making that, brick demand was there. So the initial bricks, there were no plants. So the original settlers actually brought in material out of Europe in order to build their homes, whatever business it might be. Over time, though, that did develop. There was more and more demand, so brick making became part of the American culture going back to the 1700s. Talk about a little bit about Fort Worth area and the stages. This is about the Texas Southeast. This is frontier land. So where we're standing today, you think about this back in the early 1800s, as it was kind of developing, and through the late 1800s, there was demand. This is actually a map of the city of Fort Worth. A little while ago, it's changed a little bit. There's well over 1 million people now who live within this metropolitan area. So you think about that, Fort Worth, and what I like is a connection here of Acme Brick Company, about the founders of our company, and then also the Fort Worth and the connection there. This is Cowtown. Cattle drives were very popular. So that's when Fort Worth really started growing, became just a waypoint for cattle drives to actually being the destination. All these cattle coming in, there had to be a business associated with that for growth. So the railroad was a key connection that we had, really connecting the frontier, the cattle drives, and this is a little bit about the TNP, or Texas and Pacific Railroad, some connections that I'll be able to discuss with that also. So because of this growth, back in the day, there was not a lot of other building materials other than wood and sod that someone could build their home from. So our founder, a guy named George Bennett, was really looking for an opportunity to build a brick plant. He just felt like there was demand. He was actually out of Illinois. When he first started looking, he was selling farm implements in Galveston, Texas, but he had a connection with his family up in Illinois, knew a little bit about opportunities for expansion in brick making. So George Bennett knew there's things you have to make a good brick. You have to have a good source of raw material, which is the clay or shell. You have to have a good source of fuel because it's got to be fired. You have to have the transportation. He knew where the railroad was located. He knew the growth opportunities. And he had to have a market. So there was really not great market at that time, but he was a visionary. He saw the opportunities for what could be becoming out of the brick manufacturer to his first plant. So he actually founded Acme Press Brick Company. This is actually a brick press. Goes back to 1891 when we were first founded. And this plant was actually built, the first one, out near Millsap, the town of, we call it Bennett now, it's our Bennett plant. We got a long history there, but we've had brick production on that same site in the Bennett area since 1891, so 134 years. Little view here, I mentioned fuel. So early on, there wasn't a lot of natural gas pipelines feeding into plants where you could burn that for fuel. What he did have, though, was a source of coal. So coal was actually mined out of the Thurber area. There was some mined out of Strawn. So you had the clay source or shale source there where the plant was located. These guys, that would be a tough job. That's bringing in the coal from probably out of that time would have been out of Thurber and then shoveling that in to heat the kilns up. This is inside of a kiln. Actually, photographs that was taken back in the early 1900s, and so the brick was stacked by hand inside the kiln. So very manual process. OSHA probably wouldn't appreciate the fact of how high that guy is standing on top there. We have regulations now that wouldn't allow that, but just think about how labor intensive it was to make brick during that day. Again, OSHA would not appreciate guys standing around on top of the kiln, but these are called beehive kilns. Those kilns were designed actually a circular type kiln. This is kind of evolving from the one that's kind of stacked up rectangular. You can see the stacks where the actual coal dust and so forth and the soot would be emitted from that as a brick was being manufactured. I mentioned growth. So there really wasn't a lot of, there wasn't a lot of home building going on. So it wasn't really until an opportunity came up with the Armour and Swift Company. Everybody's familiar with the building here in Fort Worth. The meat packing plant. There was opportunity, so economic development was really key to this and bringing Armour and Swift in to build a meat packing plant in Fort Worth, Texas. Well, so during that time, the contractor who got the contract to build Armour and Swift, general contractor, he also owned a brick plant. This particular plant was located up in Denton. And so this is William Bryce. William was a visionary also. He was a contractor. He couldn't make enough brick at Denton in order to supply all the demand for the Armour and Swift. So he contracted with George Bennett and Acme Press Brick Company at the time. And Acme actually provided more brick to the job than Bryce's plant up in Denton did. So leadership transitions. So George Bennett was the founder. When George died at a fairly early age, the board decided that Walter Bennett, although he had been around the plant, he was George's son, the board wanted somebody with a little bit more tenure, a little more gray in his head. So they actually promoted Ralph Root, who was in Illinois at the time. He became president and succeeded George Bennett after his passing. He didn't spend a lot of time in Fort Worth. I think he was more, like first couple of years there, 1910, 1911 and so forth, he spent a lot of time, but I think he became disinterested and actually moved back to Illinois. So Walter, who had been working at the plant all this time, he stayed on and really ran the plant, although he didn't have the title as being the president of Acme at that time. So, a crisis. This first one really became an issue because during the time, there were just, after the big job at Armour and Swift was over, there wasn't a lot of demand for it. So there were big concerns with Walter, who was at the plant, and this person here, who is J.E. Fender. Is there anybody in the room named Fender? So we got a guy back here who's actually the grandson of J.E. Fender. So got to meet Ames a while back, share a lot of history. You can fact check me on everything I'm saying today. I know you probably embellished the story over here a little bit. Yeah. So the story was, the plant was about to shut down. It was tough times at the plant. Ralph Root was up in Illinois, not really taking care of business too much. So Walter Bennett actually came to Fort Worth, not to try to find buyers of the brick, but to find a buyer for the business. He felt like it was time for them and the family to divest themselves of this. Well, here's where J.E. Fender. J.E. Fender at the time was actually the timekeeper at the plant. So kind of like an admin. He kept the books, accountant and controller and so forth. Well, he got word because TMP Railroad came through. He knew the conductor, and the conductor of the train stopped there near Millsap, Told Mr. Fender, he said, hey, I don't know if you've heard, but there has been a great fire in Midland, Texas. There may be some opportunities for Acme to ship some brick in there. So Fender, which is Ames's granddad, Ernest, he walked, I've got it either to Millsap or Weatherford, but he went to a bank and borrowed $50. Came back, and he didn't even tell Walter Bennett what was going on. He jumped on the next train, bought him a ticket, went out to Midland and actually took a great order for brick to bring it back to the plant. So you think about the value of an associate, who's at the plant location seeing, hey, here's something I don't want to see happen. And he took that initiative, and we tell this story a lot to our associates today. Whoever you are, whatever your role may be, there's an opportunity for you to help us, as we help our company. Came back with this great order, and things started improving. Business was picking up a little bit. Actually, during the time also when Fender had come back with that great order, Walter Bennett also died of an early age. And so the next person during this time frame, this is a great shot here of some of the plant workers, was the Great Depression that occurred. Great Depression was a tough time for the company. And during this time frame, Walter Bennett obviously he became president of the company. Prior to him, Mr. Bryce, who had been the owner of the contracting firm, served as president for a brief period of time also. Walter Bennett was really the guy who helped Acme become the company that we are today as far as direct sales. He saw a lot of vision. He was really engaged with customers. And so during that time frame, stepped down from when he passed away, as I said, Mr. Bryce stepped in for a brief period of time, and then J.E. Fender became president of the company. So think of that ascension that he had from being the timekeeper at that plant within a few years to become the president of the company. Aerial photograph taken of the plant site. What's interesting is all through this time frame, our plant has been located on this very same site, mining some of the same raw materials that we mined back in that day. Actually, there's a great big pit out there where the shale had been mined out. It's a beautiful lake. It was named what, Ames? Fenderlocken. Fenderlocken Lake. Now, how many of y'all recognize the guy on the right-hand side here? John Justin. So this evolved through quite a bit of time. We survived through the Great Depression times. I'll show some information in a little bit about housing starts and how that all impacted the business. But during the time after Mr. Fender was president, we had one other president, Neil Broderick, and then D.O. Tomlin became president. He also was the guy instrumental working with John Justin in order to create First Worth Corporation, which evolved ultimately into Justin Industries, which Acme Brick Company was a part of for a long period of time. This is a little bit another picture of the plant site going back to the round kilns that we had there. Over time, these plants had to evolve. I mentioned earlier about the labor intensive side of it. You can see the young guy on the left-hand side picking up brick. This is the way the brick had to be unloaded by hand and placed into what we call a monorail, and that monorail would go around. You actually blend the brick, and you do that to make the brick packages. Interesting here, some of our deep history. So talking about this group of associates here, a moment ago I was visiting with someone else who actually, it was his daughter who dated, or mother dated Ed Stout, I think. So Ed's on the left-hand side. Ed became president of Acme Brick Company in 1973 and actually served Acme for a total of 50 years. In the middle is Dennis Knautz. Dennis is my predecessor who was in this role from about 1982. He was with Acme, became president for a long period of time. Prior to him, Harold Melton on the right-hand side. What's interesting is all three of these gentlemen are still alive. I saw Dennis this week, matter of fact. Saw Mr. Melton earlier and a visit with Ed Stout. Ed will be 100 years old in November. And he still asks me questions about, well, what are you doing here? What happened with this clay source? I mean, it's like being grilled over and over. But think about that for that 50-year period, the leadership that we had. That average is pretty high for the CEOs. If you think about Ed being president all the way through Dennis in 2023, I've told him, look, I don't think I'll keep that average up. But, it's great to have leaders who have been a part of the association for that period of time. So I mentioned earlier about the growth. This is the growth that we had, and actually being able to chart our brick shipments. So Acme, one thing I'm really proud of is the history we have, but also the history of records. that we've been able to keep. So these records, and you can see the growth that was occurring with our business during the time from that 1973 period when Ed Stout became president, and continue to see that for several years. This is another look inside of one of our kilns. It's kind of more modern back in the 70s, and they would actually use forklifts to put it in instead of having hand-stacked brick. Well, as a part of Justin Industries, we actually did an expansion in 1996. During the day, on West 7th Street, that's where Acme was located. Justin Industries was in the same building. Ed Stout was on the 4th floor of the building. John Justin and was chairman of the board. He was on the 1st floor, so it was kind of nice. Just he would go downstairs and be able to have a meeting with him. Justin was real connected in the community. All the board members were very connected as well. And we're able to build a new plant there on the same site. And so this was in 1994, 1996 timeframe when that plant was constructed. We're still operating this same kiln today. Some of the things that we worked on to improve, this is kind of high tech at the time, a control room we had, really cleaned it up a lot. But being able to be on the same site for that amount of time and creating the loyalty that we had from our customers. And then the big change that occurred in 1999 and 2000 was the board of directors of Justin made the decision. John Justin was in ill health and really decided, look, this has really been John's company. We've done this as a friend to him, but felt like it was time with John ailing health to find another buyer. So Justin Industries was actually created into two different companies. We had Acme Building Brands, which was the brick company, as well as Featherlight, Texas Quarries, American Tile Supply. And then we also had Justin Brands, which was Justin Boot, Tony Lama, Nakona, though that was the footwear side of the business. Didn't know if at the time it would be sold to one buyer who might want to buy both businesses, just buy all of Justin Industries, or it could have been sold to footwear, it could have been sold to building materials. John Roach, who was very connected and actually was serving as chairman of the board during this time frame, actually had opportunity to visit with Warren Buffett. Told him, hey, we've got a really nice business here in Fort Worth you might be interested in. So Buffett came to town. I'm sure he'd done his homework before this, but actually got to meet with Ed Stout, John Justin, the crew there in Fort Worth, and spent about a half a day meeting the people. On the way back to the airport, John Roach is taking Mr. Buffett back to meet him, and he said, well, what'd you think? He goes, look, I like it. I like the business. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to pay $22 a share, and the check won't bounce either. So he said, well, that's great. We're happy to hear that. I mean, you want to buy the whole thing? He said, yes. And he said, well, when are you going to do your due diligence? Figured he would be sending in a crew of people. He goes, that's what I did today. So I think that's important to note. When I think, get comfortable, if you're like a guy like Buffett, you have to know that you're buying a company that has leadership, who has vision. He learned a lot of the history, and I'm sure the financials met his criteria as well. But that's good, So we've been a part of Berkshire Hathaway now since 2000. You may have heard Warren Buffett. I was actually at the shareholder meeting this year when he made his announcement that he's stepping down as CEO at the end of this year. He's going to remain chairman of the board. His successor as CEO is a guy named Greg Abel. I report to Greg, and so we continue to have a long-term great relationship with Berkshire. We actually, in 2004, this is the first major expansion that we were able to make under Berkshire. Remember the monorail I was showing you with the guys picking up brick by hand? It's getting harder and harder to find, that type of labor who can do that type of work, the number of hours it takes, and we knew we needed to automate. So we actually installed our first robots at this plant back in 2004, able to replace the manual process that we had there by putting in the robots to make it much more efficient and less labor intensive. So let's talk about the good times. Everybody remember the good times up to about 2006, 7, housing starts. We were selling everything we could make. We were performing very well. And then the crash occurred. Well, I talked earlier, remember the slide about the Great Depression and what had happened during that time frame? I thought it'd be interesting to kind of look at this, first of all, the corollary between housing starts and our business. We all watch housing starts very carefully. It's so interesting to me to see as housing starts go, so go our brick shipments. We're still about 70% of all of our shipments that we make are for residential. The downturn that we experienced and then the rebuilding of the business has taken quite a while to do. We still haven't quite reached the peak, but I don't know that that's what we need to do. I don't know that 2 million housing starts a year is what we really need, about 1.5 million. If we could be, pretty level set at that, I think we would be very happy with it. So here's a corollary between what happened in the Great Depression when the market crashed in 1929. Up until that point, that was the best year that Acme Brick Company had. So I was able to get this and kind of scale it so you can see how the corollary, the overlay looks. It's so interesting to me to see how the business dropped off from the Great Depression, from the peak to the trough and the rebuilding. And it's, that's exactly where we are today, still in that rebuilding. So I think it's fascinating corollary to look at. History repeats itself. I hope it's no more frequently than this, going back to Great Depression till 2006. I mean, I think we could probably handle another one in about 75 years, so that's all right with me. So back to Bennett. This is the Bennett Tunnel Plant. The one that I said was built in 1994, 96. We had some upgrades on it. During the peak that we had, just housing starts were so strong up through 2006, that plant was really being pushed relatively hard. Unfortunately, the market got so poor at that time, we were operating 26 plants. We ended up having to close temporarily, in some cases, permanently in other cases, about 14 plants. It was that tough on our business. So unfortunately, the Bennett plant, there were actually 2 plants on that site. One was the periodic plant that had the round kilns, and this plant was shut down for a period of time there. So that's the bottom trough there when this plant was actually closed. When the market started improving, we were itching to get this plant back online. Ed Stout was probably calling Dennis about every week, wanting to know when this is going to happen, because he lived out in that area and he knew how important this plant was to us. So we got the approval to fire it back up, started heating the plant back up, and then the plant conditions. Plants don't like sitting idle at all. You have humidity, things get into your controlling. So it was very difficult to get the plant back online. Once we did, though, it performed fairly well for a few years, but then over time, the inefficiencies of some of even the more modern equipment that we'd put in 2004 started giving us more and more of a problem. So you can see the decline. It wasn't because the market declined. We just couldn't keep pace with the demand that the market had, and it was because of inefficiency. We were running the plant 20 hours, this is as far as the manufacturing and unloading, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week to try to keep up, and we were just losing ground. So we knew we had to seek improvement. So we had an opportunity to be able to make the improvement here. And actually, in 2023, we got approval for it. 2024, we started doing construction. In 2025 or 24, toward the end of it, we actually were able to make the improvement here. Out of time? Get close. All right, I'll run through. So this is pictures now of where we are from the time we had started the plant back up. Great improvements, some of the automation we have. We're very proud of what we have. Actually had the grand opening in November of last year, the reopening of the Bennett plant after 134, at that time 133 and some odd months into service, be able to start this plant back up, and looking forward for great things in our future is Acme in Fort Worth, Acme at the Bennett plant, and then hopefully all of you will think of us. The little brick there is, if I didn't realize it could be thrown if somebody didn't like the presenter. I hope you'll take that home, and when you do, think a little bit about Acme and how much we appreciate being a part of our community and the presentation today.
Thank you, Ed. It is a tradition of our Rotary Club to honor our guest speakers with a donation to the Rotary International Polio Plus Fund. This is a memento of that donation. On thank you very much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully, thank you again, Ed. Hopefully, if y'all have a few questions, Ed may be able to stick around for a few minutes to answer those. Very quickly, I'm going to do my best Uncle Sam impression and say, if any of you play piano, we want you. So go see Rosa. Go see Rosa. I don't know who Rosa is. Go see Aurora in the back, and she will take care of you. Next week, we will be joined by Texas Wesleyan University President Dr. Emily Messer and football coach Brad Sherrod. So again, you all have a good weekend. The meeting is adjourned.